Now, let's turn our attention to a worrying trend of violence, or maybe hooliganism, in our schools and how we can deal with this phenomenon. And joining me in studio is Bernice Mpire Jeche. She is a National Coordinator, Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, and as well Mr. Gafson Kofi Raphael, General Secretary, National Council of PT. But before I turn to my guest for us to have the conversation, my colleague Adobia Sari has followed a particular conversation and that has triggered this conversation as well. Take a look.
Oh, students' violence and indiscipline are becoming a serious issue. Just this month, a student at the SDA Senior High brought his father's pistol to school and fired it, injuring another student. A violent clash between students of Kimbu Senior High and Accra High School has only added to the turmoil. A video posted on social media shows students of these two schools in an open fight on the streets as onlookers shout in panic.
Hey! This is... yeah! What the hell? What the hell?
Sharp. Yeah. You.
Also at Accra Academy, a senior student was caught on video mercilessly lashing a junior with a machete, an alarming act of violence that only highlights the growing indiscipline in our schools.
Sharp.
These are just a few examples of the widespread violence and disrespect that is increasingly troubling schools and society as a whole. Eunice, who chooses to remain anonymous, is a food vendor and mother. She recalls the horror of seeing a student stab another right before her eyes at Kanda.
Other schools no problem.
The students claim to have bad blood with other students from other schools. They go for their inter-schools competitions carrying weapons. One of them stabbed another and he bled profusely. Amidst this crisis, hope emerges. For the past 3 months, the Zongo Youth for Discipline initiative, led by the Nima police commander, has been actively engaging with students. The goal? To educate and mentor them, helping them choose a positive path for their future. What started in senior high schools has now expanded to junior high schools, reaching more young people who need guidance.
As a commander at the Nima command, I noticed that once too many times when we have youth indulging in indisciplined behavior, such as student clashes within our constituency or our municipality, and the use of weapons, group attacks. When something happens to one goes to call his friends and they attack one party. And it is becoming something, and we had to do something about it. So then this group was formed. We went to schools, we spoke to the students. We don't do violence.
To this, just last year in September, a student as well was stabbed in O'Reilly Senior High School right here in Accra, and as well in February this year, you must have heard that the student at Salaga SHS was arrested with pistols as well, and we can count many cases of such in our schools. Now, this morning, I will start with the PTA because I like to think that a lot begins and also ends at the PTA. For you as parents and teachers and association, do you recognize and appreciate the enormity of this challenge?
Thank you very much, MFA. I think that, let me commend your Media House for bringing this issue into the limelight once again. I think that the recently unchecked share of violence in our schools, especially at the SHS level, which has now truncated into the basic schools, clearly reflects how, as a nation, we have failed in making sure that we give our wards the best of upbringing. Training of the child begins from the home setting. I'm wondering, as a media person, the time you leave the house, what kind of attention do you give to your child to make sure that he gets the basics right? We are trying to make the teachers look like, and the schools like a miracle center. The schools are not a miracle center. The schools virtually reflect what the society gives to them. And it is our duty as parents, as the first duty bearers, to make sure that we give our children or our wards the best of what? Training and then moral development. What I see happening in Ghana is that pro-government policies tries to make the parent look like, oh, government can do it for you. And parents are beginning to shirk their responsibilities. And when parents don't get it right from the onset, because the Bible says that if the foundation is destroyed, what can the righteous do? You can only lay upon a solid foundation that has been built. Most of us who find ourselves in the ages of the 40s and the mid-50s, when we were kids, we knew that any voice in the community was a parental voice. And that voice, when it speaks to you and tells that this thing you are doing is wrong, you don't see it as only your father and your mother who can actually correct you. But everybody in the society has a role to play in making sure that the child is given a proper upbringing and development. So every child is a product of his environment. We are a reflection, the schools are a reflection of the things that are happening within the bigger environment. So I'm happy we are discussing this, and I'm using this platform and this medium to look into the eyes of every Ghanaian parent, irrespective of whatever job you do. Your first job is to make sure that you give your child a proper upbringing so that the child, when he goes out there and they mention the child with any kind of lifeline that he reflects into the society, it will show that, yes, you've actually proven that, yes, God has given you a mandate that you don't only give birth, but you also have a responsibility to train the child the way he should grow so that when he grows up, he will not depart away from it. So we are not happy as a National Council of Parent-Teacher Association, which are in charge of all school-based PTAs and also the larger parent community. We are not happy when government begins to create a posture like they care more than us when it comes to the welfare of our wards. Who can be more Catholic than the Pope? We all pick sermons and we learn. If you are a Catholic, the best place to pick best of doctrines and best of practices is from the Pope. So I believe that the teachers are only there to provide as a support systems. And we as parents, we have what we call vicarious liabilities. When the children get into the school environment, now that liability, vicarious liability, is transferred from the home into the school setting. So the teachers now become the second parents of the children. So both the school and then the home, we must be together and put the child in the middle and make sure we can tailor the child to suit him to our culture settings so that he grows and he doesn't depart from the Ghanaian culture setting. Okay. But that is what we are losing gradually as a society, and I think that it is high time we don't see this as anything, but we see it as a national emergency that we need to put our shoulders to the world and nip it in the bud.
Very well said. When I come back to you after I've also engaged Bernice, would be that, would you paint a better picture for me when you say that government seems to look like they can do it better, or who can be more Catholic than the Pope? With that analogy, I'd want to understand better. But Bernice, let me find out from you, as a coalition, are you able to maybe tell us what type of violence you say is more prevalent in our schools? Or which ones would you say are very common?
All right, thank you very much for this opportunity. I think gone were the days where it was like bullying. When a first-year student go to school, you are taken through some kind of treatment. That is what we knew. But how it has escalated to other form of physical abuse and all that is something that is very worrying. And then we really have to see how we can curb the situation. Because bullying, you are asked to use some substance on your face, you have to dress, mismatch, that kind of thing. But not when a student is using a machete to lash a fellow student. Students attacking teachers just because they want them to follow the rules and regulations within the schools. Not when students are using cutlasses, fighting on the open streets for other community members to watch and look at. It is very worrying. So this kind of bullying, it is so bad. There was a time we saw that in one of the schools, a student is made to stand on a chair and you see other students line up. This person will come and slap the other person will come and slap that same person. About 10 people slapping one person. It is uncalled for. You can imagine the effect that it will have on that student, to the extent that some of the students are dying. We are losing them. Some are having permanent disabilities. Some are having partial disabilities. It is uncalled for. It is not something that we have to sit as a nation to watch it happen. Otherwise, we are telling ourselves that our schools are not safe for our children.
Mr. Gapson draws our attention to the fact that parents have a basic role and responsibility because, of course, training your child starts from home. For you as a coalition, do you entirely agree with this?
Perfectly.
And where then is the gap coming from? If the parents can't be blamed, and the school can't be blamed, who are we blaming then?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Gapson that it starts from the home. It starts with the parent. It is one of the basic responsibility of every parent to ensure that moral upbringing or behavior of your child is key, apart from providing the material resources like clothing, dresses, and all that. It is not enough. But how your child behaves, the moral upbringing of the child is equally important. So the moment it feels from the home, it goes out everywhere the child is. Not disputing that we also, yes, maybe the parent has neglected some responsibility, was not able to bring the child up to expectation where he's supposed to be. But as the child goes out of the home, there are systems also in the schools. There are rules in the schools. So let me cite this example. The examination malpractices that we had with the BEC. Fine, parents go as far as buying the examination papers for the wards. But if they do that, and then the child goes to the examination hall, and the systems and the setting doesn't allow the child to do that, there is no way the child will be able to use whatever the parent has bought for him or her. So parents really have to do a lot, but we have to also look at our systems. So one of the things we're really looking at is the code of conduct.
Okay.
Of discipline in the schools. So that is one thing that we should also look at as a nation, because that is where we have the power to also make sure that our systems and the schools are safe for our wards.
I'll come back to you, Mr. Gapson. So you mentioned, and I'm quite curious, because then one of the things that the government will want to do is to make sure that their people are quite cared for, right? But when it now becomes quite a problem, paint a picture. What are some of the things that government is doing that is almost looking like they can even care for the wards better than the parents?
Thank you very much. Let me just read something. The identity and policy of the National PTA or the PTAs. To promote the general welfare of school-going children or wards in their homes, educational institutions, communities, and the places of worship. To raise the standard of home life through effective early childhood upbringing. To secure adequate laws for the care and protection of students and pupils. That is where I associate with her when she speaks about the code of discipline in our schools. When you are developing a code of discipline for our students, and we as a PTA, we are not invited to that discussion table, what have you done? Let me just not take it back. 2024, around January, the then government released two major policy statements they were all bordering on PTAs, but we looked at one and left the other. One was trying to change the name of PTA to PA, to take away the teachers from being part of the association. Meanwhile, when you read the Pre-Tertiary Education Act, there is nowhere in that act that states that PTAs are under government, let alone for them to regulate that space for us. So you work within your jurisdiction and your mandate and leave what is for us to also work around it. At best, we are partners and collaborators. That was one of the policies. The other policy that also the then government brought, which most of us have never spoken to, is the fact that there was a code of conduct for students. But when you read that code of conduct and you read the stakeholders that were engaged, you never see the PTA there.
I see.
At the end of the day, the child you want to instill discipline, we must do it together. There must be that effective collaboration. There must be that partnership. The child must know that both the home and the school environment, both the stakeholders in the community, the immediate family of the child, the chiefs, the opinion leaders, the elders of the community, we all resonate that, look, this is the way to go. And we are saying government or the school, we are together with you on this page. But if the school and then the parents they are in conflict as to the best way to discipline a child, I don't know the day that child or that student will have a leeway. So I'm saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that. And she mentioned something that in relation to examination malpractices.
Yeah.
I think that issue, I'm an educationist. 22 years in the space. I've been teaching since 2003. And me, I have some principles that I don't violate them. I don't believe that if you have taught the child well, you should find other mechanisms to assist the child to pass. We are not. As a national PTA, we don't condone and we don't collaborate and we don't support that.
But it's not
but the truth,
parents would do that.
But the truth of the matter is that it is these school administrators who woo the children into this act. Look, go with your cameras and investigate. Go deep down. After this BEC exam, just put your ears down and ask. You get to know that in some districts, you get to see that even officers of the education office are part of the examination malpractices. Yeah. You get to see that some head teachers are part. Not all head teachers, because I'm a head teacher. You get to know some head teachers are part. You get to know some irresponsible parents. And for that matter, some PTA executives are also collaborating. Because there's this interesting scenario out there that if all human beings are turning into animal, and you decide not to be an animal, they will now become an animal and come and devour you. Because that has become the order of the day. We assess schools and we assess performance of districts based on a performance agreement contract. So if your district, they are not churning out the best results, we are not looking at the state of infrastructure in the schools. We are not looking at the quality of teaching and learning that goes on there. All we need is that give us 100% performance. Okay. So whichever means we'll do whatever Papa will do to let the children pass, even if they can't defend their results. At the end of the day, we help them to pass. Whatever happens to them is none of our business. And now we are all afraid. When you even go to hospital and the nurse is trying to give you this thing, you are trying to find second opinion about as to whether what the person is telling you is right.
Madame Benes made a point that if the place where the violence is happening is not conducive for violence, it will not happen.
Of course.
I mean, what happened to in the past when you're going to school, both your trunk and your chop boxes were searched. There were random search in the dormitories. Even in the dining hall, they could just show up and then they could search. Because there's a local adage that says, which means that a parent would not be happy to intentionally not raise their child very well. You would hear some parents say that I did everything I could, or at least what is within their means to want to raise a child. So some children are very quite perfect at home until you're home, and then they bring your word back and they say that your child did this in school, and sometimes you're surprised. So we're trying to assess where is the fertile ground for a child to want to misconduct themselves. And you'd realize that carrying the machete to want to go and beat your colleague, they probably either took it from home, they picked it on their way, and then they perpetrated the act on campus. For you as a parent-teacher association, what are the values that you think has broken in our schools that existed in the past? And I'm happy to hear from you, especially because for how many years? Since 2003, you've been teaching. I'll come to you for your response. But Madam Bernice, for you, because you made this point, let's stay on it. What are some of the values you think is broken?
All right. So yesterday we had broader stakeholders consultation on this issue, and then putting together our thought on how we can curb this menace in the schools. But one of the things that came out strongly was that the security system in the schools are broken now. Most of the senior high schools are not walled. So other people, other community members find their way into the school, especially day students who lives around the school communities, sometimes recruits other colleagues in the communities to come to the school if they feel that a student has offended him or her, or a teacher has done something. They recruit their colleagues from the community, and they can easily enter the school, provide them with any weapon for them to use that. So some of the recommendation that was coming was, is it possible that those in the boarding house can be searched? Like you said, those times, if you are searched, they are even searching for maybe mufti or unauthorized items that you might have brought to school. Maybe you take them to out in the night or something. That is what they probably search for in our trunks and then all that. So we're asking if it is possible for day students to be searched in the morning before they enter the school. And then we realized that looking at the number of students on campus at a time, you can have as much as 1,800 day students in a school. How do you search them early in the morning before they go to class? It will probably take a majority of the learning time, and then it is very stressful for them to do it every day. And looking at the number of schools we have in the country, how many security personnel, is it police or whatever that we are going to use to conduct this kind of search? So one of the things that came out strongly was the use of the code of conduct, that one, teachers are not using them well, heads of schools are not using them well. So the punishment that comes with it, the process of taking the child through some corrective measures to take away some kind of behavior, it is not there. And then also, going with the days we used to have guidance and counseling coordinators in school. Now, the situation is that most of these people, counselors, are also teachers who would not have time to listen to their children, because sometimes it is out of a situation that the child has gone through. Maybe the child couldn't get anyone to talk to address the issue, and gradually it comes out the way we see it as violence. But then if the counseling session is working very well within the schools, then they can address some of the issues of the students. So now I think what GES is doing is that now they want to get professional counselors who would not teach at the same time to be in the school to take care of the issues of the children. Then mental health also came in. Some of this violence could be as a result of some mental health issues that we are ignoring. So these are some of the issues. So I learned the counseling in the schools are being piloted in some 32 schools, hoping that it will go across the whole school. Then we came again that looking at the ratio of student to a counselor, if you have only one counselor in a school, how will it work? But we had the information from the team is that apart from the professional counselor, a team of counselors will be formed in the school, about 10 or 12, and then they will be mandated to ensure that they provide some form of counseling to the students. So like you are saying, I'm a parent, I've raised my child in a way that thinking the child is so innocent, but the child goes to school and then meets a kind of friends, some culture, other thing goes on. The child can learn that in the school and begin to practice it. But when our systems are also working in the school safe policy is being implemented well, security of the school becomes our concern, schools are walled, and then all that, I'm sure some of these things can be decreased. So we have to look at it from both sides. The parental issues, the policymakers issue, GES, the implementers, and then the school management team, what can be done to address this?
You've touched on something. Mr. Gapson raised a concern that you're drawing a code of conduct without the parents. How are you going to implement it? Mr. Gapson, what would you say are the values that have been broken in your years of practice as a teacher and maybe a parent if you are, and now even the secretary for a whole body that has experienced both sides? What would you say are the values that are broken?
You know, every child is a product of his environment. There's a home environment and then there's a school environment. The values in the home, if we do them well and they reflect within the school, is the same values that the children will carry on whilst they are in the school environment. For instance, respect for elders. Yeah. Of late, the child will be passing, a school child will passing, he sees the elderly, he won't even greet anybody. And we don't even care to draw his attention that, look, that is not how we are as Ghanaians. There's no community in Ghana that does not cherish the fact that a child must be trained to greet and appreciate the fact that you are young, an elderly person must guide you and nurture you. So when you see them, you greet them. And maybe if there's something he can share with you, he will share it with you. Extended family ties. We are now becoming more intrinsic than extrinsic. Most of us don't even check on our extended family relations. Formally, when a child is good or a child even has a challenge, you can get somebody within the extended family that is prepared to see how they can assist to give the child the best of attention. Or the child stays with the parents for some time, he goes and learns other things from the village or other extended family members. By the time a child comes back, he improves upon the values and how he cares about people and relationship. We are talking about hospitality. Some say Ghanaians are hospitable. These days I say that we are only hospitable to strangers. We don't care about the next door neighbor, but we put up a fake life to think that we care about other people. We also need to look at tolerance. These violence issues are tolerance issues related. If a child has been trained to tolerate other people's views, it will be very difficult for a child who is not prepared to use a dagger on himself, will try to use it on another person.
Right.
You understand? So, and hard work and perseverance. We live in a society that these days, mediocre has become the order of the day. We don't believe in hard work. We don't believe people should toil to make it. So when they are going to write exams, we think that, let's help them to pass.
Let's talk about discipline in schools.
Discipline in schools. What do you want us to discuss about school discipline?
Let's talk about discipline in schools. For PTA and also for you, Bernice, is it still an active rule that we cannot cane our wards in school again? Is it an active rule?
Well, per the GES policy, that is what they say. But as to whether that is what is on the ground is another issue. And as to whether we, as parents, we agree with them, it's another matter altogether.
I want to hear from the parents.
We don't agree.
You don't agree?
Why should we agree?
People have become quite aware of the human rights.
I keep on saying that. Human rights?
People have become quite aware. Do you think
is human rights more godly than godly rights? God, the Bible says that spare the rod and spoil the child. It didn't say that use the rod all the time.
Did you fight this policy when GES?
I'm saying they don't even engage us. That is why it is not working. That's the reality on the ground. Because in the house, I have control. I will not intentionally cane my child or probably hold the ears and pull or just do something for him to know, no, you are being naughty. I will not do that intentionally. I will do that when the child is going overboard. And you see, it is part of our training. Even in America, I think about 2-3 months ago, I heard Donald Trump saying that, look, let's go back to the basis. Let's go back. There are certain things we are trying to say, in the name of human rights and all those things, and things are going out of hand.
Would you rather the cane us in school? Would you rather that the caning?
No, some minimum amount of caning, but it should be measured and it should be regulated. That should be the situation. Before you do that, at least the head must, there's a team should assess and say, for this one, let's go give some small work so that the child will feel that, look, he's this, or just give him some distance. Or I believe that something must happen to show that you've gone, you've deviated, and we are trying to let you know that every law you breach, there are some consequences. If we don't make those things effective, and we sit down and we say, oh, the Western world are doing this, the systems they do have those same systems here.
So finally,
the systems in the Western world, is this the same here?
I mean, question for the God.
No, I'm also asking you that question. You are also a parent. So you see, we shouldn't copy blindly. We should copy what fits into our system. And we should, I like it, they say teachers, you should do improvisation. When you're a teacher and then you are supposed to teach something and you don't have the real thing, you improvise. So when we see these things and we look at it, can we model it to suit our system than to do hook, line, and sinker way of engagement that doesn't become effective with our system?
One for you for PTA. You're asking that when these code of conduct or when questions of discipline will come up, you would like that it is done in collaboration with you. We
should be at the forefront of it.
In fact, okay.
It's not that, you see, there are some blunt truths that is difficult to say. But if we don't give birth to kids, how will a teacher be employed? How will a school even function in the first place? How will a community be established? So if you are doing things and you want to become more Catholic than the Pope, that's what I mean. You want to think that you care about our children more than us. Whatever you are doing for the child, it's a support you are providing to collaborate our effort. So let's do it together. Let that partnership, let that collaboration, let it be effective. So the child will know that both the home and then the school environment, he has no space to misbehave.
Right. Vanessa, I'll take the final words from you. And in your final words, you can also talk about the discipline.
Right. So with regards to the discipline, one thing that the teachers and then the school management are also not doing right is that because they said don't cane the child, they have also stopped all the other form of discipline that is supposed to be meted out to the child. Because with the use of cane in schools, we've seen several incidents to whereby the teachers have overused the cane, also hurting the students, and then all that. It could be one of the reasons why it has to be taken out. But there are other forms of discipline where the teachers are not using. You said I shouldn't cane the child, so let me leave the child to go. Meanwhile, there are other forms of correctional ways that the teachers could have used to discipline the child. So that is one thing we should look at and go back to. So as a coalition, we are looking at how we can support the teachers, support the students, give them a form of sensitization on the code of conduct so that they can go back to other form of discipline to correct the children. But what I would say is that let's really look at our schools again. When we are allocating resources for our schools, there are some structures in the schools that are being ignored, like the school management committee, which involves the community and then the teachers, the school management, coming together to make sure that the school runs effectively. But those structures are not well resourced, so they are not functioning. So policymakers, Ministry of Education, Ghana Education Service, we are pleading that let's go back to those structures that we feel are not significant, but they are making a lot of impact if they are well resourced. And then also let's look at the security systems of our school. At least we should see some form of commitment in walling all senior high schools. It should be walled, and at least some number of security men at post to check some of those issues, because we want our schools to be safe. And then also we sometimes support the formulation of policies or reviewing policies, and then other. We have a safe school policy. We are pleading that any form of resources that are supposed to go into that policy for it to be well implemented, it should, because we are mostly good at coming out with the policy, but its implementation becomes a challenge. So the safe school policy should be re-looked at again to be well implemented. Otherwise, we are all at risk.
Right. I think that once we've started this conversation, we'll continue it again at some point. But I thank you at least for making time to join us in studio to have this very important conversation. We were joined by Bernice Impera Jeche. She is National Coordinator at Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition as well. We've been joined by Gabson Kofi Raphael, General Secretary, the National Council of the PTA. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for joining us today. Please stay with me. There's tomorrow on the show.